It isn't often that I get a chance to hunt with folks who truly know how to hunt from the ground. The level of dedication and perseverance that it takes to be consistently successful hunting this way is well beyond what most hunters are willing to give. But I recently had that opportunity, and it was an absolute pleasure. Ryan Gill and Vastin Hall are true primitive hunters, whereas I just dabble in the primitive side, kind of bridging the gap between the primitive and traditional communities. These guys go straight up caveman, stone points and all. Watching a master hunter on a stalk is a thing of beauty. Decades of experience, observing and learning from the game that we pursue, manifest in action and timing. There's a complete awareness of the animals, of the environment and our place in it. It's a state of being, of flow, and that's something that very few people can even begin to comprehend.
Smelling it. The majority of the group went that way. I had no idea we were here. Yeah. Like about 10 hogs.
Ryan's max range with the atlatl is about 8 yards, but like anyone, he'd prefer to be much closer. And when you consider the need to get that close, you can imagine how your odds would go way down. But even with the odds stacked that far against him, Ryan has managed to kill several big game animals with the atlatl, including hogs, sheep, and a bison. But this time, it just wasn't to be. As cool as the atlatl is, the simple wooden bow is what captivates my soul. And somehow we've both found a way to make a living following our dreams and passions playing with these ancient weapons. A primitive bow can easily double or even triple the effective range of the atlatl, and on this stalk, Ryan makes great use of its deadly potential.
shot.
Have a look at that. So that's a very, very light arrow with a very, very tiny little skull oran point, and it went all the way up in on this angling shot, all that penetration that far, and the points, well, it broke off at the foreshaft, so it penetrated that far with that light of an arrow through the vitals of that hog and brought him down in about, went into the palmettos, but I'd say all told probably 30, 40 yards maybe. So, well, anyway, there we have him. So he's another great one to eat.
So you'd mentioned the small points and testing out that stuff. Tell me about that. What do you got going on there?
I'm really excited about it. They're not really legal to use on public land and on private land for deer because they're so small. And by really small, I'm talking like 15 grains, 12 grains, 10 grains, a ½ inch wide, 9/16 wide. They're very, very, very small, little tiny triangles. But we're showing that we're actually able to shoot and kill animals really fast with them. And like the last pig that I shot it at, I don't know, 8 or 9 yards or so, and hit it back here and came out in front of its shoulder, passed all the way through with like a 370 grain arrow, really light, almost no weight on the front end, completely passed through it, and it ran about 40 yards and went down, and just that fast. And so the important part of that is that we're drawing a correlation between the artifacts, the little tiny artifacts, and we're putting them to use to show how it's actually done. Because we can speculate and say, oh yeah, well they killed everything with this, but without actually going and doing it, it's not showing the data of how far did it penetrate, how far did the animal run, how far, you know, was the shot itself. So there's all these different things. And then at some point, what would be great, because I know we haven't discussed it in this video, but the little stone points, not even tiny ones, but smaller stone points, 70, 80 grains, penetrate a lot better than big ones, which is completely opposite of the steel point stuff, because steel points don't have hardly any resistance when they penetrate because they're such a sleek round angle, where stone has a lot of surface area and it takes a lot of power to force that through an animal. But the little stone points penetrate really, really well. But if you want to hunt with stone points, at some point, especially if you get to where you're shooting a lighter weight bow, or you know, a bow that's maybe not as fast, let's just say that, you still want to get the penetration. And reality is, you could take a point that's this big and kill an animal just as dead as you could with a big point and penetrate better and actually have a higher success rate than you would shooting 100 grain or 125 grain point that's made of stone. So it's just, the idea is, not only are we giving the archaeologists data to work with, but you're also able to give it to lawmakers to say, maybe we should drop the 7/8 rule in a lot of these states.
So the data that you're collecting on all these pigs down here, and you've got Vastin out here and you're supplying his you're his arrow supplier.
He loves that. Yeah.
And all of this data is being collected in hopes that someday you may be able to change the rules around hunting with stone points.
Yeah.
And
some states don't allow hunting with stone points at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, we're knocking animals dead all the time. I've taken 40 big game animals. It's a really nice round number. It needs to be 41 because everybody's like, you're just guessing. But right now it's 40 big game animals with primitive weapons. Vastin's shot now several with stone points, and a lot more than that with steel points. So, I mean, clearly stone works really, really well.
Yeah.
16 yards maybe.
Yeah.
17.
It's awful. Did she just get out of the way?
What's that?
She just get out of the way?
Yeah. It already was as soon as I let go. That's the problem. Them being alert in the open.
Yeah.
Any idea where they're going?
Oh, shit.
That's why you don't let down your guard.
Hey, buddy, what'd you think about that?
I saw a pig.
You saw one?
Yeah. It just did this pew.
Some will look at a miss and make judgments about the weapon, or perhaps the hunter. But these people often have little to no practical experience in the woods. Those hogs were onto us, and an alert animal's a tough target. Sometimes they just get out of the way.
He wheeled.
You know, the fact that the atlatl's not legal in most states and that stone points aren't legal in a lot of states, I think it's just a residual from people having a fear of the unknown. You know, they're just not familiar with it, and they make judgments on it based on what they feel. You know, it's an emotional
It's an
thing.
emotional feeling, yeah. I say that all the time.
And so the data that you're collecting, you're going to have that available to say, no,
Yeah.
let's just back up a minute and look at what we're doing with these points. That's exactly what you need.
Yep.
Late in the evening on the first day of the hunt, we came across another group of hogs. With shooting light fading fast, I made a quick stalk and had a nice boar step from the palmettos just a few yards away. When he stopped broadside, the razor-tipped arrow was already on its way.
Nice shot. Nice shot. That's a good boar right there.
Good shot.
That was a good shot. Damn, he stinks, don't he?
Huh?
He stinks.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was a good shot, man.
Made a perfect shot. You nailed his shield. That's why you didn't. You might have went out the other side, but that was a shield shot for sure.
Yeah.
Sweet. It's awesome. I heard it hit, and I was like, oh, he shot one. He's like, he shot one? I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yo,
First
I
night,
don't want to carry this heavy thing anymore. Yo, go see if we can find anybody.
First night seems like it's always the best.
It isn't often that I'm the most modern hunter in the crowd, but it was certainly the case on this hunt. I found it interesting to be in this position, to be the modern one. I found myself justifying my choices with thoughts like, I have no confidence in stone, and opportunities on public land are scarce, and I want to be able to capitalize on them when they occur.
5 minutes.
Basically, the same justifications that a compound shooter uses to avoid the more difficult traditional path. Not that any justification is necessary, I just appreciated the perspective that hunting with these two gave me.
Pushed it back out. Yeah, that is good.
Good placement.
Yeah.
He broke his cutter.
How's
Oh, look
his?
at that weird thing. He ain't got nothing for cutters, and he's a decent sized boar hog. That's
Yeah,
strange.
he's big. That's weird.
He should have teeth on him.
He has a big.
Did it pass all the way through?
Oh yeah, yeah. Look, there's a hole right there on the other side.
What, did you find my whole arrow?
Well, half of it's back out there, and
Yeah.
the rest of it's inside of him.
The broadheads back there?
Inside of him.
No, the broadhead's out the other side.
No, the broadhead's inside of him.
How could it be? It came out the other side.
Because he pushed it back in.
Did he?
Yeah, I felt the arrow in here.
It's on me.
Yeah, that's a good size hog. Yeah, your arrow's right here. Huh. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you drug it back through.
Yeah.
Saving resources.
Told you.
It is, yeah.
Smells good.
He was right.
I got plenty of light. I'm holding the light for it.
You gotta help him drag. Don't try to get out of it.
Dad, this turned off.
I know, it's still on, buddy.
Good. Went right through that. shoulder and out the other side.
If you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and click that button because we've got a new traditional archery or bow hunting video every Wednesday. And later on, Ryan's going to be teaching me how to throw the atlatl, so you're not going to want to miss that. If you haven't checked out Ryan's channel, be sure to do that as well. We'll see you next week.